Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today I have filmed my Armed and Gorgeous palette makeup look using obviously the Armed and Gorgeous palette from Morphe and Jaclyn Hill. This is the last look using, not the last look using these palettes, but it is the last look of the series of reviews that I've been doing for these palettes. So this is the final one, and you guys, it ended on a pretty good note. I think that this palette had an even amount of goods and bads to it. It was like, it's kind of like in the middle I'm with in this palette. But I'm not going to spill any more secrets. You guys will have to see kind of the whole process of how this look came about, obviously, in the rest of the tutorial. So I'm not going to spill too much for you guys of what I think about this palette until the very end. So just wait till my very end outro and you guys will see my thoughts, my final thoughts for this palette. But I love you guys so much, and if you enjoy this video or have enjoyed any of my videos, please give them a thumbs up and subscribe down below to become a part of the little family we have going on. But I love you guys so much, and if you want to see how to create this makeup look right here, then please keep on watching. Bye guys. Are we done? So if you hear any noises in the back, my family is, I don't want to say redoing our house, but we are, like, we've painted the walls, we're just kind of freshening things up and changing things, and we're also doing shiplap on one of the walls. So if you can hear a nail gun going off, that is why, ladies and gents. So I'm going to go just straight in. I'm going to grab VIP. You guys already know this is what I've been doing in all of these vault looks. So I'm going to take VIP right here, which is that light white highlight shade. That was a lot of words. And I'm gonna take that and highlight my brow bone and inner corners. So now I'm going to take the shade Access right here, which is that light kind of creamy yellow shade, and I'm going to use that as my transition. This shade is, oh my gosh, that is literally so loud. I'm so sorry. But this shade is actually pulling a lot more of a bright yellow color than I expected. In the pan, it looks like super golden-y yellow, and this is actually a lot more of a bright sunshine yellow, which is cool. I like that color as well. Just, it looks a little bit different than it does in the pan, I think. And I didn't say anything about that VIP shade, but you guys know, I mean, I've used that in all of the other 3 tutorials using these palettes, and I mean, I have nothing bad to say about it. I really actually do love the shade. So I'm not really sure if I've ever even spoken on it, but I've kept using it for this whole time, so yeah, it is pretty good. This shade is very pigmented, which I like. You really don't need a lot. You guys already know I like taking these shadows under my eye as I'm going, so that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just gonna take Access and blend it under my eye. This just helps the process later, because I find that when I do my bottom lash line, like right now as I'm beginning my makeup, it saves me from having to do it later. This is gonna drive me insane. But it saves me from having to do it later, and I feel like it just looks a little bit better. It looks more seamless because it's blended along with all the other shades that you've blended with it. It's not like doing a bunch of eyeshadow and blending it around and then doing the same thing on the bottom after you've done all the shadow on the top. I don't know if this makes sense. I'm really not the greatest explainer, but I guess you can kind of envision what I'm talking about. Like, imagine layering on a bunch of different eyeshadows and it looking perfect and beautiful, and then having to do it a separate time right under here, right next to it. Sometimes the blends can kind of not look like it's one piece, if you know what I mean. That's my explanation. Now I'm going to take the shade Agent right here, and hold on. Is this just me? Agent and Secure, these two right here, look literally almost identical. Well, that's a little weird, but really looking at it, Secure looks definitely a little bit more orange. Agent is a tiny bit more brown. Agent looks like a brownie orange, and Secure is definitely more of an orange, but they're definitely very, very similar. So I'm just going to go into Secure since it looks a tiny bit lighter than Agent, and that's what I'm going to use in my crease right now. I'm just going to blend that kind of deep into the crease area. I just think stuff like that is so weird to me. Like, I understand when it comes to like nude lipsticks, it's like they all look the same, but they're different, you know? Like, I understand that, but at the same time, when it comes to eyeshadows and kind of an eyeshadow palette, especially when there's only 10 shadows in the palette, it's one of those things, I feel like you want a good enough like separation of the colors. It's just kind of a waste to have only a 10 color palette and have 2 or 3 eyeshadows that look extremely similar. I just feel like that's wasting space and that you could just do a little bit more than that. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm not trying to like hate or anything, but that's just like my personal opinion. When it comes to a little palette, you want to have some pretty good color differences between all the shades. You don't want to have 2 or 3 shades that are very, very similar. In my opinion, I feel like it's just a waste of money. Sorry, I don't like hating on a product or saying negative things, but that's just my opinion. I'm going to blend down this shade pretty far on the bottom lash line, the yellow and the orange, just because I want this to peek through the shadow that we use afterwards. All right, now I'm going to take the shade Agent right here, and then I'm also just going to use that in my crease area, pretty much do the exact same thing that I did with that Secure shade. This shade is very, very pigmented and creamy as well. All of the shadows that I've used so far in this palette have been very impressive with the blending and the pigment. So I'm super impressed so far, but what I saw through applying that Agent shade, it does look very, very similar to Secure. It's not much of a difference at all, really. I figured that since the Agent shade is a little bit more of a brown, that it would pool, oh my god, that it would pool a little bit more brown, hopefully on the eyes, but it really didn't. The shades are extremely, extremely similar, so yeah. I'm gonna go in with Smooth Criminal now, and it is just a super gorgeous, just warm, rich brown shade, and I'm super excited to use this because it looks just, I kind of want to eat it, honestly. It's such a pretty shade. So I'm gonna take this shade in the crease as well, as always. I really didn't love that shade. I kind of thought it was going to be a little bit more pigmented than what it was, and also I found that it was kind of difficult to blend out. It wasn't horrible, but it was definitely not as good as the other shades that I've used from this palette so far. So I don't think that it was as smooth as the others. So that's just my thoughts. Now I'm going to take Prowl right here, and I'm going to focus that more on the outer V and take a bit into the crease as well, but it's mainly going to be in the outer V area. I actually didn't love that shade either. I thought it was one of those that it was kind of, once you like lay down the shade and you start blending, it's one of those that kind of like disappears a bit, and I can't stand when eyeshadows do that, so I don't know what happened, but it was one of those things, like I said, once I laid down that shade and then I started to blend it out into the crease area just a bit, it kind of completely just like faded off of my outer V area, so I'm gonna have to go back in later to kind of fill that back in. I just wanted to get it a little bit darkened up on the outer V area. So now I'm gonna go in with Guilt Trip right here, and I'm going to take that and put that on kind of the first half of my lid. That shade was actually really pretty. It was very pigmented, it was very shimmery and beautiful and metallic, so I like it. So now I'm gonna go in with Classified, and I'm going to bring that out onto the outer V area and the outer lid section. So one half of my eye is gonna be that lighter gold, and then it's gonna go into this beautiful kind of a bronzy antique gold on the outer half. Well, that shade is absolutely stunning. I loved it. It actually really applied very well with a brush as well. Then again, I did put some eye drops on it because I knew that it looked like a very chunky kind of pressed glitter shadow. So I knew that it was probably not going to perform well on a dry brush. So I did use it with a brush that had eye drops on it, and it actually performed very well, but it performed even better using my finger. So that was awesome. I really have nothing bad to say about it. I really liked that classified shade. So now I'm going to kind of pop right in the center of the eye just to really give this look kind of a pop in the middle. I'm going to take Coin right there, and that's the shade that I'm going to use and just kind of mesh these two shades of the Guilt Trip and Classified together. Well, that kind of failed. It kind of meshed in with the rest of the other eyeshadows. I thought that there was going to be a bigger difference between Coin and Guilt Trip, but it kind of just blended in with both those two shades, so that was a fail. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next thing that I was going to do, and then I'm gonna come back to that Coin shade and incorporate it just a little bit more. But I'm going to take the shade Top Secret right here, which is that beautiful green, and I'm going to take that, and that's going to be basically my bottom lash line. I want my bottom lash line to be green, really. Alright, now I'm going to take Coin, which is that very, very yellow gold, and I'm just going to take that kind of into my inner tear duct and really just make it go like it's exploding from the inner corner of my eye. Really, you guys know I can't explain, but that is pretty much, that's what's gonna happen. So you're gonna see what I do in the next clip. Just don't pay attention to what I'm saying. And I'm gonna go over a little bit with VIP so it's not too dark on the inner corner. Okay, so I just applied my L'Oreal Lash Paradise mascara and then chucked on my Lily lashes in the style Monaco. I absolutely love these lashes, you guys. I got them a few months ago, and honestly, they're one of the most beautiful lashes to use with just mascara and eyeliner, and then you pop these on with like no eyeshadow. Girl, they're so beautiful. And after that, I applied a nude liner on my waterline. You guys can really find these kind of pencils anywhere that come in nude because, I don't know, I feel like a lot of brands make them, but mine is from Rimmel and it's gross and nasty and has been used a lot. So that's what I used. I like using a nude liner or even a white liner just because it really opens up your eyes and makes them look super fresh and airy, and it's one of those things, I feel like no matter how heavy your eyeshadow is, once you pop a nude liner on the inner, once you pop a nude liner on the waterline, it just makes your eyes look so much bigger and more fresh, and I can't speak because of the noise. But now for lips, I'm going to take Staunch lipstick from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I'm just going to obviously apply this to my lips. And now I'm just going to grab any super light nude lipstick. The one that I saw first was the Maybelline Blushing Beige lipstick, and I'm just going to go over this Staunch shade because although I do love the shade so much, I just want it a little bit lighter. Alright guys, that's the end of this makeup look and the end of the Vault Collection reviews that I've been doing. So what are my final thoughts on the Armed and Gorgeous palette? Well, what I think is, honestly, there is a pretty good, I don't know, even amount, I feel like, when it comes to like some of the negative things about the palette and some of the positive things. I'm kind of in the middle about the palette. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I'm going to start off with the things that I didn't love about the palette. So the first thing I'm going to go into is the first thing that I ran into, which is the fact that Secure and Agent, these two orangey shades right here, are literally almost identical. I understand, like I said earlier, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this earlier in the tutorial, of like the nude lipsticks or like nudes or like whatever, how a lot of makeup artists, it's like you have so many of them and it's like, they're so different though, you know, I understand that. But at the same time, I feel like it's almost different with eyeshadows, especially for a palette that is only 10 shades. Now for you, that might be a lot of shades, and for others, that might be a very small amount of shades. For me, I mean, I would say it's a good medium palette, but at the same time, it's still small enough to where I feel like you need to have a lot of still different shades. I just don't think that you have enough room to have 2 or 3 shades that are almost identical. So I think it's smart to just have a lot of compatible shades but are different at the same time. But those are my thoughts on that. And also, adding a note in, I've seen this pattern in all of the other palettes as well in the Vault collection. There is at least 2 shades in the palette that are extremely similar. So I think that's a little funny how it's like all the palettes have at least 2 shades that are extremely similar. The other things were that the Smooth Criminal shade and Prowl, the 2 browns in the palette, they really did not perform like any of the other matte shades. They were not as buttery, smooth, or pigmented, and I felt like they blended out just a little bit more difficult. Now, I personally don't have a problem with shadows that aren't extremely pigmented, but as long as you can build them up, that's what's important to me. Now, with the Smooth Criminal, I found that I could build up the shade, but it did kind of get just a little bit patchy and a little bit more difficult to blend. So that's what I would have to say about the Smooth Criminal. But Prowl, I did not find that I could build it up a ton, because the more I built it up and went to blend it out, it kind of just like swept off the shade off of my eye. I don't really know how to explain that, but you guys know kind of what I mean, I think, of the fact that when you start blending out a shadow and it just starts to disappear and wipe off the shade. So yeah, I wasn't crazy about that either, obviously. And then the last thing I would have to say is the gorgeous Army Green right here, the Top Secret shade. It wasn't bad by all means. I thought that it was a gorgeous color and it blended out fine, but it really wasn't as pigmented as I was hoping either. And I was building it up and I found that it really didn't get any more saturated on the eye. So I'm not too sure. I just found that I couldn't really build up that shade to get the amount of color that I was wanting. So those are my cons for the Armed and Gorgeous palette. Now let's move on to a more positive note. The things that I absolutely loved about the palette is that all of the shimmers are stunning. Like they're But anyways, as I was saying, the metallics in the palette were extremely gorgeous and very, very shimmery and just stunning, honestly. I really, really loved them. Also, Access, Secure, and Agent were extremely... Oh my god. What I was saying is Access, Secure, and Agent. The kind of orange and yellows in the palette were extremely buttery smooth, extremely pigmented, and blended out like a dream. But other than that, that's really all I have to say about the Armed and Gorgeous palette. I think that it had a good even amount of pros and cons about the palette. So I kind of stand in the middle. I didn't love it, but I definitely didn't hate it. Now, if I had to choose my favorite out of the whole Vault collection, it would actually probably be the Dark Magic palette, which is this palette right here. I think Dark Magic is honestly my favorite because it just performed so much better than I thought it was going to. When I was watching reviews when the Vault collection came out, it seemed like everybody's least favorite was the Dark Magic, mainly in how it performed. But for me, I think it performed beautifully in the shades. I think honestly all the shades performed very well. So I really enjoyed this palette actually. But yeah, that is the end of what I have to say. I know I've been rambling for a very long time, but I'm going to shut up now. So I love you guys so much, and once again, please like this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to my channel, and make sure to hit the bell so you can get a notification for every time that I upload. But yeah, I love you guys so much, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys!